WCNC Charlotte. This is Flashpoint.
Thanks for joining us here on Flashpoint. I'm Ben Thompson. We are now just under 400 days away from the 2024 election, and battles here in the Tar Heel state are already heating up, including the Democratic race for governor. Former North Carolina Supreme Court Justice Mike Morgan facing off against Attorney General Josh Stein. And in a moment, we'll speak to the former judge about his uphill battle to the governor's mansion. And then a little bit later, we'll take a look at an election right around the corner. The battle shaping up for city council in West Charlotte. But first, joining us now is former North Carolina Supreme Court Justice Mike Morgan, a Democrat now running for governor. Mr. Morgan, thanks for coming on Flashpoint. We appreciate it.
Good morning. It's good to be with you.
All right, so first up, why step away from the bench and make a run for the governor?
Well, actually, I'm not stepping away from the bench solely to run for governor. Actually, I decided, even before deciding to get into the race for governor, not to run for my seat on the Supreme Court. Quite frankly, I wasn't going to be able to fulfill an 8-year term if the voters had seen fit to reelect me to the high court. I could only have done about 3 years out of the 8 years, so I felt that that would be unfair to the voters. I could only do about a third of the term, so as a result, I decided I would step aside, let the governor appoint someone who could run for a full 8-year term and move on to have further pursuits in order to try to serve the state in another capacity.
Do you think, let's talk hypotheticals, do you think that you could be more successful as governor in dealing with the Republican supermajority in both houses than Governor Cooper? And if so, how?
Well, I think I would enjoy great success in terms of what I've been able to do based upon what my background has been. When I've been on the court, for example, both in the majority as well as in the minority, as well as those that have had political affiliations, I've had to work in collegial situations with those that are in an opposite party from me. Did that on the Supreme Court successfully, and feel as though in terms of being able to work with others who have different orientations, different foundations, I can be successful because you have to find common ground. There's more that unites us than divides us, and unfortunately we have those that would like to stoke us and rile us and somehow feel as North Carolinians that we all can't rise. A rising tide can lift all boats, and I feel as though in that capacity I could work with anyone, including a Republican supermajority, if it lasts.
That being said, specifically, would you have signed this budget into law recently? It was controversial, had lots of things in it, Medicaid expansion included. Would you have signed it into law?
Well, I respect the fact that the governor decided that he would not sign it. I know that there were aspects of the budget that were good, some weren't so good. Unfortunately, the Republican-led legislature decided to have some beneficial aspects, such as Medicaid expansion, finally to go into play. But otherwise, there were some aspects that were very difficult to swallow. And as a result, in terms of signing it, I can't really say that I would have. I would have needed to delve more deeply into some of the finer tuning aspects of it. But again, the point is the full budget was not what it should have been. It could have done more for North Carolina. It didn't do it. And it's unfortunate that the Republican-led legislature continues to pick winners and losers among us. And there are too many losers in that budget bill. So it would have had concerns for me.
Part of the way we do primaries in this country and in the states means you've got to run against people who you kind of agree with in the primary. Assuming you agree with Josh Stein on a lot of things, why is he the wrong choice for governor?
Well, he's actually been someone who, when we look at state government, and see that it has not fulfilled what it can for North Carolina. State government is broken. When you have a situation where we've got a great state that unfortunately has 3,500 public school teaching vacancies, 12 people die every day from fentanyl overdoses, and it takes 45 days to get an appointment with the DMV, that's a concern. So there are issues there. We also, in terms of not being able to have winners chosen by those that are already in elected office, we can't take the voice away from the people to determine who their leaders are going to be. Also, I'm more electable than my opponent in the primary. Fact is, when he first ran, he got 50.2% of the vote. When he ran for re-election, he backslid actually as an incumbent, only got 50.1% of the vote. On the other hand, the time that I ran statewide, I had the greatest cushion of victory of anybody who ran on the statewide ticket. I won by 9 percentage points in this divided state. So we need someone who has vision, someone who has strength, courage, leadership ability. I'm the best one for that position running for governor.
And be that as it may, let's go along with that and say that you've got the leadership and the vision, but he also got a big advantage on you when it comes to fundraising. Are you worried you joined this race too late?
I'm not worried about that. Fact is, not a single vote has been cast for governor yet. No one has been anointed. No one has been appointed in terms of being the Democratic nominee for governor. Certainly, yes, my opponent's been running for years, trying to take advantage of that well-worn attorney general to governor pipeline. We've got someone on the other side of the party fence who's the lieutenant governor. That lieutenant governor to governor pipeline has also been one that is familiar. But I bring a unique skill set, one that's never been seen before in a candidate running for office. I've been a state government veteran for 44 years, 34 years on the bench, 4 different judgeships in the state court system, more judgeships than anyone who's ever served in the state of North Carolina. So as a result, though I'm starting what appears to be behind, that's only because of the fact that my opponent in the primary's been running for years. Fact is, it doesn't take all of that money. He's been stockpiling money, and the voters can see through trying to have all of this money to go forward. The people are smart. I give North Carolinians credit for being able to understand the issues, know who is best for them, and I'm the best one for this position.
Assuming you make it through the primary, you'll then face some Republican, we're not sure which one, but size up the Republicans in the race. You got Dale Folwell, Mark Robinson, Mark Walker, among others.
Well, it appears that the Republicans are casting their fate behind Mark Robinson. He's got a huge lead, and all indicators point to the fact that he's going to be the nominee. So I'm looking forward to meeting him in November. He says things that are despicable, disgusting, disappointing. Leaders are not supposed to tear people down. We're supposed to lift people up, and that's what I would intend to do. In facing Mark Robinson, I would look forward to meeting him wherever he wants to take the race. He's that kind of individual that you've got to be ready for because he comes off the wall so much. But I'll meet him face to face, toe to toe. I'm the one that's best built to defeat him in November. And as for all that hatred and ill will that he continues to spout out, I'll take it, receive it gladly, take it, spit it out after I chew it up, and I'll enjoy doing it.
Okay. But that takes me back to my second question, and that is you call Mark Robinson despicable, but he has the support of a lot of party establishment in the General Assembly.
I did not say that he was despicable. I'm saying what he says is despicable. But in terms of talking about being able to reach across the aisle for folks, again, there's commonality among people. Everyone in their own minds presumably is serving for the reasons that they feel as though they were elected. And I've got a capacity, I feel, as I have on the bench for 34 years, reminding people that we have to do what is best for all North Carolinians.
Mike Morgan, former Supreme Court Justice, current Democrat running for governor. Mr. Morgan, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
It's been an honor. Thanks very much.
Take care. More Flashpoint after this. Welcome back to Flashpoint. A Republican making a long shot bid to win over a historically Democratic district in Charlotte. James Bowers running to win District 3, which represents West Charlotte. And he says it's a race that should be based off of character and not political party. Joining us now is James Bowers. He's a Republican running to represent West Charlotte on Charlotte City Council District 3. Welcome to Flashpoint. We appreciate it, Mr. Bowers.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So why run for City Council? Why are you doing this?
You know, because I love Charlotte. I've seen many of the issues that are, prevailing in Charlotte. And as a citizen, you want to ask, what can you do? And sometimes you have to just step up and step into the midst of things to be able to perhaps get some of the things done you think make sense and hopefully make sense to the voters.
Tell me, Republicans have struggled in recent years when it comes to races here in the city of Charlotte. The district historically that you're running is historically heavily Democratic. Two-part question here. What do you think Republicans have done wrong to not resonate more with folks and voters in Charlotte? And what do you plan to do differently to where your outcome is different?
Well, in my opinion, I don't think people have actually reached across the aisle, so to speak. I look at leadership as not as a Republican or Democratic issue, but a people, human issue. Everybody, for the most part, have 99% of the same interests. It's just the difference when there's a D or an R or an I beside your name. These things ought not to be the most important or critical things as relates to a leader, but someone who looks at not from the lens of how I'm gonna look as a Republican candidate or a Democratic candidate, but as a citizen, a husband, a father, a neighbor. These are the things that I incorporate when I look at an issue. It doesn't mean all the time that I'll agree with my colleagues on the Republican side, or it doesn't mean all the time I'll disagree with my colleagues on the Democratic side. It must make sense, not just for me, but for the people. And so what I'm doing differently is I'm going to meet the people so that they know me, not just as a Republican, but as a man who's lived in Charlotte for almost 40 years, a man who's been a mentor, who's worked in the finance area, involved in making decisions about millions of dollars of loans for affordable homes, as well as automobile in the automobile industry. So it's important not to be someone who's leaning so far on one side that you don't realize there's two sides. Because even with us as individuals, we have a left hand and a right hand.
Sure. What do you see as, from your point of view, the biggest challenge now facing the city? I asked the mayor these same sorts of questions, and people who are currently on city council. As a person who's trying to get on that dais at the government center, what do you see as the biggest challenge?
Well, I think it's safety more so than anything else, and that safety carries over into so many areas. Safety in the neighborhood, safety as far as law enforcement is concerned, and then city council having the decision to make as far as what funding is, what oversight's going to be, and how it looks far-reaching in the plans we have, or they have rather, for the future in the next 20 years. All these things are prevailing over the citizenship. There are so many people who don't feel safe, and some of those decisions have to be reviewed again to make that happen in the city.
Yeah, we see it on a daily basis, concerns about safety and crime. On the other end of the spectrum, what do you think Charlotte is doing right now?
The right things we're doing, we are putting the issues right there in front of us and discussing them. We're making efforts to improve the number of law enforcement, but it's not quick enough. Perhaps there are better ideas that we can incorporate that might help make it better. So there are investments in the infrastructure that's positive, that's coming along. The city is reaching out to other companies that perhaps might want to make Charlotte one of their headquarters. These things are important, but we can't forget the real issue is the people here in Charlotte. We've got to readdress this thing called gentrification. We have to readdress how it affects how children are affected, especially when they're becoming high school seniors. Where are they going from there? All of them are not going to be college material, not because they're not intelligent enough, because they have a different direction in life. And we must engage the private sector also in being a part of that solution, because they do glean tremendously from the community.
All right, James Bowers, he's running for District 3, Republican candidate there. Mr. Bowers, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. Welcome back to Flashpoint. A teenager who survived years of abuse by a sex offender is now in prison. But this young woman says she can't move forward and says local police are to blame. The Mid-Hill Police Department seized $69,000 from the girl's abuser. A judge recently ordered Mid-Hill to hand over that money, but the police department refused. And thanks to federal law, it's all completely legal. We only know about this because a family friend actually reached out to our own Nate Morbido for help. So he asked, where's the money?
Well, we know a judge recently ordered Mint Hill to hand over the money, but the police department refused. And thanks to federal law, it's all completely legal.
It's honestly really difficult.
Pain.
My daughter was a victim of the most terrible crime that a child can go through.
And suffering.
I've obviously learned how to, deal with it.
This 17-year-old understands no amount of money
I've been dealing with this since I was 5 years old. I'm almost 18.
Can make up for the years of sexual abuse.
She's strong. I admire her a lot.
She endured in the past.
My daughter was brave enough to speak up.
But $69,000 would certainly help her future.
I just want to move on to the next chapter of my life, and that money was going to help me do it.
Since the teen is a victim of a sex crime, WCNC Charlotte will protect the family's identity.
I just think that this is completely unjust.
Her mother knows about injustice.
It's hard hearing it from my mom especially, just because of the way she does advocate for me.
The mom works for an area law enforcement agency as a victim's advocate.
You're policing for profit.
Records show when the Mint Hill Police Department investigated this sex abuse case in 2019, they found suspected marijuana, drug paraphernalia, and more than $69,000 in cash inside the suspect's home.
The lead detective always said, yes, it's there.
Money the family's attorney says an officer assured them would be available for them to pursue in a civil suit. It wasn't.
How can they sleep at night? How can they say this is okay?
Unbeknownst to them, investigators seized the cash and partnered with a federal agency to apply for asset forfeiture, citing probable cause of illicit drug activity. Mint Hill investigators never charged the suspect with any drug crimes, only sex offenses. But that didn't prevent the department from eventually collecting more than $45,000 of the seized money in 2020. The federal government received the rest, all 3 years before the suspect pleaded guilty to multiple sex crimes.
He says, yes, we got your order, but we don't have the money. It's been forfeited.
The family's attorney says the department's evidence clerk recently shared the news.
Morally, it was absolutely the wrong thing to do.
Only after the victim's family sued the suspect in civil court and secured a court order requiring the department to turn over the $69,000 so she can stake her claim.
Somebody needs to call them out.
People are going to say, this feels wrong. Don't you think so?
To me, what feels wrong was that this woman was misled.
By the Mint Hill Police Department.
Well, she said she was told that. Of course, I asked, did somebody tell this woman that they could get this money? And I'm told, no, no one would say that.
Scott McLatchie is the police department's attorney.
But if she was led to believe that, I get it. I get she's frustrated.
McLatchie signed the paperwork.
Are you all at peace with this? What I'm at peace with, and obviously I'm looking at this, you have to understand, through kind of what I would call a sterile lens. Am I at peace with it? I am at peace that we followed the law.
McLatchie says police treated this forfeiture case the same as any other. He says the judge's order is non-binding for a variety of procedural reasons.
We know that once it goes over to the feds, we have no further say in what they do with it.
Most notably because federal court has authority over the money, not state court.
I would go so far as to say I'm 100% certain that if he had known that this order related to money that 3 years prior had already been forfeited by the feds, he would not have signed the order.
North Carolina has some of the strongest asset forfeiture protections in the country. But by working with the feds through what's called equitable sharing, police departments can still receive money under the argument they're disrupting illegal activity. The standard of proof, only a preponderance of the evidence.
They call it policing for profit. Do you think this is fair?
I don't think that's a fair characterization.
Internal records show the Mint Hill Police Department alone has collected almost $900,000 through the program since 2018.
It's honestly so frustrating and difficult.
For this teenager,
She's strong. I admire her a lot.
the surprising path police chose leaves her with even more pain and suffering. And for what?
Just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should do it.
Records show most of the money she expected would help her start fresh, Mint Hill police used instead to buy several generators.
More Flashpoint after this. Before we leave you folks, come interact with us on social media. Let us know what you think of the show, some other topic you want us to discuss. That's the great thing about Flashpoint. We can talk about a lot of different things here. If there's something you want us to cover here, let us know. And as always, remember to listen and subscribe to our podcast. You can find it wherever you get yours. And we'll see you back here next weekend.